Your reaction to the news that Santi Cazorla requires surgery?
For me, it's very bad news because you know always the date of a surgery, but never the date where the player will play again. And I always try to put absolutely everything in place to avoid surgery because it creates always anxiety and rehab, and overall I think when you can avoid it, you have to avoid it. But in this case, unfortunately, we have come to that conclusion, and now they tell me that he will be out for 2 months at least, but 2 months can sometimes be 3 as well.
Have you spoken to Santi at all? What's he said?
Look, Santi is desperate to play football. He's only happy on the football pitch. I've spoken to him, of course, but he himself wants to get out of that vicious circle, going out and coming in again, and wants just to cure it.
In terms of the rest of your team news, what can you tell us ahead of tomorrow's trip to West Ham?
Well, we have more. And then he came out of our last game and with sickness. We'll test him today. And apart from that, everybody else should be available.
Approaching a tough run of games now, 4 of your next 5 in all competitions are away from home. What's the best way to deal with that?
Focus on the next one and rely on the confidence we have rebuilt with the win against Bournemouth, and overall I believe that from the strengths we have shown away from home, rely on the belief that we can do well everywhere, absolutely everywhere.
10 days ago, Arsene, you seemed to be reasonably optimistic about Santi Cazorla.
Yeah, I was.
Said, perhaps 2 weeks he'll be training, and then 2 weeks after that. So what's happened? What's gone wrong?
What's going wrong is that he has an inflammation at the back of his foot that nobody knows really where it comes from, and because he has been treated against this inflammation, and that the injections, the anti-inflammatory, have not got rid of it. The surgeon, the specialist we consulted, decided to have an exploratory surgery. That means open and see what's going on in there.
The fact that you say he's going to be out for at least 2 months, maybe 3, does that mean that you need to get someone in come January? Is that something that you will now look at, getting a replacement?
No, not really, no. We have in midfield we have many players, but there's 2 reasons. First of all, we have the number and the quality, but secondly, in January and transfer market, you will not necessarily find the Cazorla, even if you wanted to.
Listen, I'm sure it will raise questions again about players at Arsenal having long-term injuries. Are you still happy with the way things are at this club?
Yes, of course, because I believe on the injury front this season we have been very strong. We had not many injuries. We have the injuries where you can question the preparation or the care of the players. That is muscular injuries. We had very few, but they are accidental injuries down to the structure of your body or to the repeated competition that you cannot do anything about it, and that's Santi Cazorla is purely accidental. It's a kick at the start on the back of his foot.
Update us please on Matthew Debuchy. He came off against Southampton. He was due to have a scan. Do you know the results of that scan?
It's a severe hamstring injury, yes. 6 weeks, I think.
How frustrating is that? How disappointing is that, given that actually it was his first match back in?
Look, it's frustrating for me, but even more for him, because he fights very hard. He's a guy who is exceptional attitude and is very serious, and overall I think that he is absolutely disappointed, but he's as well a fighter. He will fight to come back. Incidentally, I forget to tell you that I thought that Giroud would be available for tomorrow, but the last news I got, he might not be available for tomorrow unless he has a test today, and certainly for Tuesday he will be available.
How good is it to have Danny Welbeck back in training? Let's try and make things.
It's
a
great,
positive.
but he's not. He's at least 4 weeks away from playing again.
Gabrielle sent a very moving message to those people who lost their lives in the plane crash in South America. How has he been? Is he in the right frame of mind to play this weekend?
Yes, I think so. I will have a chat with him today. But if he is in the right frame of mind, he will play.
What do you sense about his frame of mind?
As you said, he has sent a very emotional message to the families of people involved in this crash. But he still played on Wednesday night, and I think if he has recovered well physically, I will play him, and mentally as well.
Listen, how do you reflect on this fixture last season? Finished as a 3-3 draw. Do you remember it? Well, clearly you
I
do.
remember it
Very
because
well.
we were 2-0 up, cruising and playing well, and suddenly it was 2-2 just before half-time. We conceded 2 goals after we 3-2 down just after half-time. And I think it's Koscielny who equalised after for the 3-3. And we came out. It was an important game for us at that stage of the season. And we came out of it disappointed because when you're 2-0 up, you expect to win the game. And we conceded 2 cheap goals. On the day, in fact, it was Carroll who scored 2 good goals.
Couple more, if I may, just very quickly. Gareth Southgate is the new England boss. I don't think it surprised too many people.
No, it didn't surprise you, nor me.
Did the FA ever speak to you?
I speak always with the FA because I'm a long time in English football, so when things go on, sometimes they contact me, yes.
Did they ever speak to you about the job?
Look, I need to keep confidential my conversations with the FA.
Theo Walcott has become a world record holder, I gather.
Yes. Does that surprise you?
Does it surprise you?
No, because it was not necessarily for what I expected him to be a world record holder, because it's true that to take the ball from the crane and to beat the distance and all these super skillful players, you need a super touch.
How impressed were you? Were you watching? Did you see it?
No, I didn't see it. No.
Were you impressed by what he did?
Yeah, of course.
Controlling a ball from 34 metres up, it dropped.
Yeah, I think you need to do 4 touches, and so it's absolutely great. He has a great focus capacity too, and of course he's more known for his pace, for the quality of his runs and the quality of his finishing, and less for the technical skill, and it shows that he has as well that in his locker.
Arsene, there's not many things that you do for the first time in the Premier League, after being involved for 20 years, but going to the Olympic Stadium, the London Stadium as it's now called, will be a first.
Mm-hmm.
How have you prepared for that?
Well, before we knew exactly what was expecting us at West Ham, you know, I preferred even the first version of the West Ham Stadium. That means when it was very tight. When they built a new stand, the distances were a bit bigger, and I think the most intimidating stadium was the first one I knew. But this time, for them, it's a bit like when we moved to the Emirates. You know, we feel a bit for a while on a neutral ground, and after that, I believe the best way to prepare is just to focus on what we want to do and start in a very strong way.
Do you think it gives you that incentive to go there on the front foot? I know it's what Arsenal usually do anyway, but in terms of the results that they had, the start they've had at that stadium?
We will try. we'll try to have a strong start, of course, but when you look at the squad of West Ham, they have a very strong squad. They have players of top quality. So at some stage, I think recently they've picked up. They had a difficult start of the season, but recently they've picked up quality-wise, and they played well at Tottenham, played well at Manchester United, and difficult fixtures. So overall, I think it will be a very tight game, very intense one.
Their top player has come in for a bit of criticism this week, Dimitri Payet. What do you make of when players like that have obviously shone in the Premier League last season and go through a slight dip come under this sort of criticism? Do you think it's fair?
Not really, because Payet is now, even in France, one of the star players, you know, and overall I believe that he has realized maybe a bit late in his career or fulfilled all his potential, and certainly West Ham was one of the triggers for him coming to English football, having to adapt and show that he has a potential. Not only did he convince everybody in England last year that he's a top-class player, but as well, through that performances, he won his place in the European Championship with the national team.
Do you have any sympathy for Slavan Bilic at the moment? Because you talk about how you orchestrated the move to the Emirates. It's a similar situation. He didn't get given the money. He's had to spend cheap, and there's a lot of criticism for the players that he's brought in.
Look, I have sympathy for every manager, you know, because I know what you go through when you don't have always the expected results. But I think he has done a very good job there, and that he has built a very strong squad, and I'm sure that will come out through on a longer distance.
Have you actually been to the stadium? Did you go to the Olympics? Or?
I went to the Olympic Village when there was the Olympic Games to meet some athletes, but I couldn't go to the Olympic Games, no.
I mean, you obviously you mentioned your own stadium move. Just how difficult was it when you left Highbury to make the Emirates home?
It takes a few years.
What could you?
Because you have to build memories, you know, and make a little history, and for a while when you moved in Marble Hall at Highbury, it was full of history, and suddenly you moved to a stadium where there was nothing happened before you came in there, and you feel a bit lonely there, and on a neutral ground, so you have to rebuild a kind of environment for the results you have made before, to create some nights. For the supporters it's the same, you know, they sit every time next to the same guy, and they have to talk. You remember last time here we beat this team, and suddenly they sit away from home.
When you're the manager of the team that's moved into a new stadium, is there anything you can do to help the players, or is it just time that helps it?
You try, but you cannot create artificially something that doesn't exist, you know. And I feel as well the players on the ground, before when you played at Highbury, you have a kind of picture. When you play up front as well, you know where the goal is, because the signals coming from a crowd, you know exactly, you know where the adverts are, and sometimes you have no time to make your decision, but you have a reference, a geographical reference when you stand on the pitch that is linked with the stadium. You linked with it, and you have to recreate that.
Just a final couple on the injuries. You mentioned Debussy for 6 weeks. Will that rule him out of going out on loan? There's been talk about him maybe leaving in January.
Yes, of course. I suppose we are now in December. Until mid-January, he will not really be available. I hope he's always quicker than expected, Mathieu. But you know, people asked why I didn't play him. For example, against Paris Saint-Germain, I had the temptation to play him against Paris Saint-Germain, but he had only 70 minutes in the under-23, and it was maybe even a bit early after, but usually he recovers quickly.
And just on Santi, I mean, do you have any regrets about the way that has been handled?
No, we make a debrief about the whole situation. You know, it's for me a bit difficult at the moment to see step by step exactly what happened all along, because you have always we have always these problems inside the clubs. When the guy is injured, if he's Spanish, he wants to go to Spain. If he's French, he wants to go to France. If he's English, he wants to go to England, you know. And there's always that little conflict between the medical care that you have inside the club and, of course, the freedom of everybody to be treated where he wants to be treated. And we try always to find a good compromise by good communication with people who in their local country, and usually it works very well. But it's normal that if you have something that you want to have as well in specialist in your own country, because that's where you have been educated.
But as you sort of look at it now, you don't sort of think, oh, I wish we'd done something differently? Or
No, I don't. I don't, because we had always liaised with Santi's people, and we have treated him the way we wanted to treat him. You know, it's always very sensitive. Inflammations, bone inflammations. It's always, you never know how long it lasts.